to episode 163 of the Meet the Farmers podcast. I am your host, Ben Eagle. And for today's show, it's actually a farm visit. Earlier this week, I went to go and visit Sophie and Tom Gregory, who are dairy farmers in Dorset, who I'm sure many of you, certainly dairy farmers amongst you, will know. The Gregorys milk 360 cows organically with 150 young stock, and they're farming just over 900 acres as tenant farmers, selling their milk through Arla. Yes, I went to see them once earlier this week, and then I also went for afternoon milking earlier today. I am recording and editing this on Sunday evening, ready to go out tomorrow morning. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well, and let's head over to Dorset. Sophie, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Nice to have company in the parlour.
Oh, it's great. Tell us a bit about the farm and the herd, just to give us an introduction.
So we've got 360 cows, organic. We've been here 8 years now. So first generation. Tom's family were in farming until he was about 10 and they sold the herd then. And I trained as an accountant before, so I'm not actually from a farming background.
Yeah.
And we took this on 8 years ago in partnership with another organic dairy farmer. So yeah, we've been here 8 years, 1 year conventional and then 7 years organic.
And how did you and Tom meet?
So we met at Glastonbury Festival when I was 16, he was 17, through, I know his cousin quite well, so we just ended up camping near each other.
Cool, and the rest is history. Yeah. And I guess your mum was a vet, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So did you ever consider going into veterinary?
I did think about it actually. I didn't work hard enough at school, to be honest. I think I could have done if I worked hard enough. I think I was a bit too distracted. But I had Harry, our eldest, at 18, 19. Yeah. So I sort of followed accountancy because it fitted alongside having kids, and I could train alongside being a mum. But never dreamed about going into farming. So that was definitely Tom's influence.
Yeah. Well, it is quite a place, and actually, this is the second time this week I've been here. Just, can't keep me away at the moment. And on Tuesday evening, I caught up with Sophie and Tom as we watched the sunset, which was quite spectacular. And we spoke a little bit about the business, but also where you're going. So take me back to 8 years ago when you were designing your initial system. What were you looking to achieve?
Quite an extensive, simple spring block carving. Spring block carving is what I thought was what I wanted to do. Not organic. But the guy we were looking to go in partnership with was all organic. Okay. And when we came down here, we just did 4 budgets. One was spring conventional, yep. One was spring organic, yep. One was autumn conventional, and one was autumn organic. And the big thing here was we had 600 acres, but only a dairy for only 350. But if we were to do spring conventional on the proper stripped out New Zealand system, like 450 kilo Jersey crosses, we'd be looking at a good 500-600 cows. So which didn't fit with the 350 cow unit. So we opted for organic, one because of the acreage to the sort of infrastructure, also because it was sort of the speciality of our business partner.
Okay. And the plan was originally to do 280 spring calving cows and rear all of the replacements on farm and make all of the silage. And we ended up, the first year our fertility wasn't very good. We bought from sort of 50 different herds, hadn't vaccinated, a bit of a risk, and as you can imagine, we had quite a high empty rate, and so it wasn't really those cows' fault. So what we did was we put the bulls in, and we were going to sell them as slips, so sell them as autumn calvers. But obviously, what did we do? We kept them, and that's how the split block happened. It just meant that we could milk more cows. We then went and bought some more to join that autumn block, and we sort of fought it a bit, this sort of split block system, thinking we'd like to go back to having a single block, but actually with climate as it is now, having the 2 blocks has actually worked in our favour this year, I would say, the first time, just because of being able to have some dry cows at the moment with how little rain we've had.
So we're currently looking at possibly one of the best sunsets that I've seen in a very long time. Rolling Dorset countryside, trees on the bounds of fields. You must feel, I mean, this is a pretty special part of the world to live and work, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's when I go away and come back that I really feel it. I think it's very easy to take it for granted when you see it every day. I think that's something that we've probably got to get better at.
Yeah, and definitely sometimes the only times we actually stop and appreciate this sort of stuff is when we're doing something like this. Because on general day-to-day, I'd be flying up to see the dry cows on the bike, concentrating on seeing the dry cows, not maybe taking in everything.
Yeah, it's perhaps a good point, and Sophie, we were sort of talking about this roughly with all the chaos back at the farmhouse before we started recording, but taking that step back and actually thinking about why, the why, which is a big question often, is why you're doing what you're doing, what you want to achieve sort of going forward, and why you want to achieve that. What is that why for both of you? And is it the same why? Is it the same reasoning?
I think.
Have you ever had this conversation before?
No, this will be good. This is marriage counselling. Why? I suppose a big why is to be able to give my kids this kind of upbringing. That would be a big why for me. And that definitely wasn't the reason to do it originally. I think it was to follow what Tom really wanted to do. And to be fair, I had very little faith that it would happen at all, or that it would be able to give us the most amazing lifestyle that we've got here.
Yeah.
It's definitely not on a plate, as in every bit of this business is part of us, isn't it, Tom? As in, like, we've worked for every piece of this business.
Definitely.
And although I think sometimes we probably should have grown slightly slower to have enjoyed it a little bit more, the journey. But I think we're definitely emphasising that now, aren't we? We also used to really push. We had a real fixed goal that we wanted to buy a farm, and I don't think that goal has changed. But I don't think that we will be doing that for our kids to grow up on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
We always thought, it'd be nice to, have our kids growing up on a farm that we owned. But because we've had them so young, I don't think it's going to be possible. We're not losing sight of the goal, but I think our sort of goals have changed slightly.
And also with the site we're on, it's just a great place to be. So try to recreate this would be challenging, especially to do organically where you need sort of quite a substantial land mass. And with prices skyrocketing, it's going to be a hard one.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, you've been involved in farming all your life in various guises, but in many ways you've already achieved what you want to do because you're doing what you want to do every day. But what is it that keeps driving you, and is there something that you're striving towards, or are you already there?
I think firstly it was getting to 50-50 and having the business. The business is fairly stable and doing its thing. One of the things we're pushing for, I'd say at the moment, is trying to find the balance of agriculture and environment, and along that proving that making key environmental decisions doesn't have to have a detrimental effect on profitability. It's finding those principles and those methods that will combine the two. It's quite an interesting challenge.
And is that, in terms of a sort of personal journey towards that, has that been a shift in your way of thinking as well? Has this been a gradual sort of change, or is it a sort of a way of farming that you've always sort of had at the back of your mind?
Not at all. I was taught full New Zealand ryegrass, nitrogen, and Jersey crosses was the only way you milk cows off grass. But we started organic straight away, and some of those principles didn't necessarily work. And we were farming in quite a conventional way without using nitrogen, which didn't really work that well. So we're shifting to try and understand how the soil works, what we can get from the soil, and sort of hedgerows and hedgerow management and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting one in dairy, isn't it? Is how dairy is embracing the classic regenerative principles. Let's talk about who's on the team and who does what. Sophie, give me the roundup.
So it's Tom and I are full time. So because we're split across two sites, the main block here at Home Farm, and then we've got 300 and so acres at just under 8 miles away where the young stock are. I suppose I'm more focused on the other farm, and I deal with all the young stock, and then Tom oversees the whole lot. We also have our main chap, Charlie, who is actually leaving us after 7 years with us.
Oh, really?
He's actually going off tree surging. He has actually gone off before doing building, so maybe he'll come back. He knows the gate's open to him. But one thing we've always thought with staff is that it's wrong for us to hold them back if they want to try something else. It's like we've given opportunities, and if it's not the right thing for them, they're as much a friend as a so we're actually seeing it as a bit of an exciting time really to find another person that wants to follow some of the principles that we've taken on in the last few years. So we've taken on one local girl whose parents have a beef and sheep farm, Lottie, who's going to do, at the moment she's doing 2 days a week, but she's hopefully going to come on full time when she passes her driving test. We always have an apprentice, so we've got our apprentice Sam, who was our weekend boy, and that's often how it happens, is they come on for weekends and then they become our apprentice for a couple of years. And normally we try and offer them something here, but normally what we've done is by the time they've left here, they've tried everything on farm, from tractor driving to grass measuring to foot trimming to everything that they could here, and then they often will go and specialise in something. We're not really, because both of us are here, we're not really big enough for them to progress massively, and because we've had Charlie, so we often will find, so our last apprentice has gone on foot trimming and she's also doing some contracting, but she knows she'll come back and do a couple of days here and there for us. She also knows the gate's open to her. But we've also, at the weekends, we have what we call the youth group, which is made up of a 14-year-old, and Sam was part of that group at 16. So we have lots of young people on farm. We have a lot of vet students come, especially over calving. We've got 2 at the moment. That's a really important part of the team, and I think the future of agriculture, they're really struggling to get vets, large animal vets, so I think it's quite an important thing, as well as giving us an extra pair of hands when we're busiest.
So let's talk about the story of how you came here, I suppose, how you secured the tenancy, and also how you secured the Arla contract. So take me back to those few months before you got the tenancy, perhaps when you heard about it as well, because as I understand it, it was advertised in Farmers Weekly, but were you aware of it before it? Because obviously, Tom, your role as a foot trimmer as well, you had your ear on the ground. Did you hear about this place before it came up?
Yeah, the first time I heard of this place was a couple of months before it came up. One of the farms we used to go to, a family called the Rowlands on the Somerset Levels, we used to go there every Monday, and we'd always go in for lunch. And they're real pedigree Holstein breeders, and they would have 500 cows, and the son that runs the herd would know every cow and its pedigree. He would be able to tell you its mother, its auntie, its cousin, its daughters, everything. And he was really into buying good families, and he would always sit down and pull out the catalogues of cows that were coming up for sale, and he pulled up the catalogue for this place. And so immediately I thought, well, if the cows are being sold, there's a farm coming up. So we spoke to an agent that we knew, and we managed to get to know this place was coming up before it came up. I don't think that didn't do us any particular favours, apart from knowing a bit early. We still had to go through a formal tender process.
Yeah.
And then we actually were already in partnership with who is now our business partner now, rearing high welfare veal, RSPCA welfare veal, because he was shut down with TB, so we used to take his bull calves. And we went to him with this idea of going share farming. He knew we were keen before, and he actually said no to begin with.
Did he?
And then Tom was quite persistent, went back to him, and he was like, okay, let's look at this. And actually, during the tendering period, he was actually in New Zealand, so it was a very, to piece everything together, sort of over calls and things, and we couldn't go to the open day because he was away. So we never ever thought it was going to happen. And I remember saying to my mum at the time, "This is the one. If this happens, this is the one." Like, this is the farm. This is the opportunity. We'd already got 35 heifers. They were literally calving as we were finding out about this place. We bought them for another opportunity. We've looked at maybe 3 or 4 others that hadn't come off. We had heifers on the ground calving. as basically the landlord here was looking around our farm to see whether we were suitable.
Wow.
I mean, it was literally couldn't have been more to the day. We had, we as soon as we found out we had cows on here, within 10 days. Yeah, it was really quick going.
So that period before, because I'm just trying to understand sort of your application and what made you stand out. What were you doing in those couple of, obviously you were involved, you had day jobs in other areas, but what made your application stand out, and what was your dairy practice, I suppose, in those couple of years before?
I think it was probably Mike, our business partner's reputation. He already had probably 4 dairies by then, and they were very profitable and very tidy. I think they liked the package that we were a young family coming, but Mike was going to oversee it. So I think we brought both that and the security.
The landlord lives on site, so what Mike was saying was it's great for the landlord to have the young family on the farm.
Yeah,
getting involved with the local community, having the kids in the local school, and being here, but then having the backup of his knowledge to
And
make
his
sure that the
financials.
farm
big time.
ran smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a two-pronged attack to try and secure the place.
And I don't think when we went for the tenancy, the landlord knew how much financial input we had in it, if that makes sense. I think he obviously knows now fully that, but I think we grew. I mean, as we grew our knowledge, we obviously grew our share as well through the profit. So I think also it's become trust, hasn't it, from the landlord? We've gained his trust over the last 8 years. Massively, because when we came here at 24 and 25, it was a real chance.
Yeah,
it was a real chance, and I still pinch myself that it actually happened, because it was one of those tenants. I think there's been one other tenancy as big as this in this local area come up since.
This is the thing, and this is I'm up in Somerset at the moment, and I've been talking with people up there to find a tenancy of this size. It's quite something.
It's few and far.
Yeah. And the only other tenancy that came up within the time that we've been here, our business partner also got.
Yeah.
So it's just,
And they've replicated this somewhere else. They've got other share farmers in there milking cows.
And the Arla contract, how did that come about?
So we were actually very lucky with that, because at the time there was a shortage of milk. So they were, and Mike was already an Arla supplier, and one of the best things we did was take the tenancy. Our business has got its own Arla contract rather than an add-on, which means that if we wanted to grow, we could have an add-on to it. I mean, I wouldn't. I think that Arla at that point wasn't the point it is now, if that makes sense. So they've built their brand and their name
very
for 5 years.
interesting couple of years.
Yeah. For the first 5 years, we weren't always the highest milk price, but the last 3 years, we've seen the strength through those brands massively. It's a great place to be.
So, do you have a routine for milking? Who's generally, because so you're looking after the young stock mostly?
So I would do a lot of morning milkings, because I find, as Tom will tell you, I'm definitely a morning person. So no matter whether I'm milking or not, I still wake. So I might as well be out there, if that makes sense. And then because Tom's overseeing the whole farm, during winter he would do a lot more milking than he does during the other times. During calving, serving, we're both in the parlour, but during the other periods Tom takes more, an overall management of it. And the afternoons sort of one to milk, so it's sort of whoever is around, depending on what the day looks like. Parlour's not great. It's something that we will need to do in the next period of tenancy. Okay. Something we will look to do. Just it's not very efficient. It's a really bad flow. So the cows, it's just not great for cows exiting the parlour. So it's just something that we want to invest in. I think then I won't be able to keep Tom out of the parlour. I might get a bit jealous. But yeah, I think that's an improvement we're going to make. There's a few things on farm that we probably, once the next tenancy has been agreed, we will be able to invest in.
Yeah.
It'll be worth the long term.
So we are now, enough to think about that, right? We're now relatively early August, moving into mid-August. Your next lot of calving will be starting shortly.
Yeah, so we're split block carving. So we carve 2/3 in the spring. So that's the first 5 weeks would be to sex semen, and then and also anything that we don't really want a heifer calf from, so don't really want to breed from. If it comes bulling in that period, it would have a beef straw put on it, and then we clear up with for 3 weeks. We've gone actually to an 8-week block this year. Clear up with some Angus bulls that we have on farm, some pedigree ones, and then those calves get sold to a local farmer as soon as they've got their passport. And then in the autumn, they're just in calf to beef, because I don't really want 4 groups of young stock, because I've still got the year before heifers, so I don't really want to have 4 different age groups. So we just do beef in that group, and that sort of that block is kept numbers by the slips from the spring, if that makes sense. So anything that doesn't get in calf in the spring, we get one more go, okay. And then if it doesn't get in calf, then it's out the door. But it works for us, and it means we can balance workload. It means we can milk more cows here. We couldn't probably milk as many cows as we do in one block, just because of cubicle numbers, and also some of the land isn't really suited, is it, to grazing. It's more sort of like we can use it for like standing hay and things. It's not sort of the best grazing ground, so we sort of use it for dry cows and things. But we, a lot of people do question our split block and the efficiencies, but for this farm it just seems to work. It's not great for work-life balances, and we're always either carving, serving, and that's probably the thoughts behind trying to get the blocks a bit tighter. So we were 2 9-week blocks, and we're going to start shaving off a week a year, try and get down to 6-week blocks. Okay. Just so that we're not constantly at carving or serving. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Talking of grazing, it's no it's no story to say that there's been a lack of rain recently to anyone, no matter where you're in the country, apart from you lucky arable farmers up north who managed to put your oilseed rape in somehow. How's the can I even use the word drought? Are we officially in drought yet? Probably not.
I don't know.
How's the lack of rain been? Has it been causing issues?
I think we're quite fortunate actually. Being organic, our peak growth is probably 2/3 the peak of a conventional farmer, but our growth at the moment would be similar, because we're not relying on rain or nitrogen to grow the grass. It's just whatever sort of comes. So we put the cows on 45-day round, 50-day round quite early, when we could start seeing a hole in the grass wedge, and we've been all right up until now. I think we've got another 2 weeks of grass, and then it's gonna start getting a bit scarce. But our stocking rates are low for our land mass, and we're also fortunate that we can graze pretty much 60% of our silage ground. So rather than making second cut, we've grazed it. We have had to buy some second cut, but it's in the clamp, which is pretty relieving. But I also think some of it is through the grazing management we do. We don't do a strict 21-day round. We're not too worried about leaving high residuals. So longer roots, colder ground temperatures, better coverage, things like that, I think have had an impact on us maybe being a bit better off than some.
I think, Tom, a little bit you might have enjoyed this challenge. Yeah, or is that too far?
It's not been horrendous.
Is that too far? I'm more likely to probably lose sleep over it, but I think someone said to me recently, you just got to lower your expectations, and that's what I'm trying to remember. Like, it's not in our control.
That's a really interesting point, actually. So where would you say your expectations are?
I think we've higher expectations because we've got a business that's performed quite well, and I find it hard to see it not doing that. And because it's out of my control, I probably find that harder. I'm maybe slight bit of a control freak. Tom would say I'm definitely a control freak. But I'm just trying to remember it's not in our control. And also one thing I keep saying to myself is it's never not rained before. So rain has never not come before. Yeah. So it's going to come probably as soon as we start thinking about it's winter. I don't know. Maybe some people say it's going to come as soon as we start carving, but I don't know. But lowering those expectations and remembering it's not in our control.
So, like you said, you have had a lot of success. So, but you've got a long career ahead of you, both. So, and actually, I'm going to ask this question to each of you individually because it might be different.
Yeah.
What do you still want to achieve? Where do you want to be in several years' time? Let's say that.
I think biggest thing is still want to be enjoying what I'm doing. That's the biggest thing. When people say, "Oh, how do you get up at 4:30? Or how do you do that?" I'm like, there's nothing else I would do that to do. I wouldn't get up, to do accountancy or anything like that. So other goals that I want to do, probably want to do I want to balance a little bit of the farming with some other stuff, just to keep it fresh. Because I think otherwise, I don't want to get into a space where I'm not really getting the same kick out of it. I think another farm, taking on another farm and balancing this unit, having the autumns here and the spring somewhere else locally. I think Tom needs the challenge of another farm. This has been ticking along in a way, doing the same figures for probably the last 4 years, and I think he misses the challenge of that. And I think I've got the challenge from other areas of my life, on the board stuff and things, but I think Tom needs that next challenge. So I'm keen to push him to do that. So the other big thing, and I was actually talking earlier to a friend about this, is I want to focus on enjoying the journey rather than just sort of constantly thinking about what's next.
It's bizarre, isn't it, at that point? But it's really important. It is really important. Tom, I'm going to bounce this back to you. So, where do you see yourselves in a few years' time? Do you have enough? As Sophie was alluding to there, do you have enough challenge here? Because it seems like you've got a lot going on anyway.
No, I
think. Do you want to challenge yourself more?
Yeah, I can work under quite high stress quite happily. I find stress quite motivating. If it's too easy, I get quite bored and maybe slightly too relaxed. So, in a high stress environment is probably where I do best. So, taking on more land or another farm would definitely be something I want to do. And sort of natural progression. So we're share farmers hoping to be tenant farmers. And once we're at that stage, I think we'll be able to start bringing other share farmers through. So we're obviously quite passionate about getting the next generation into dairy farming and maybe starting up a sort of more distinct chain of how that would look like. So some sort of postgrad scheme where we would invite either uni students or sort of uni leavers to learn the more practical side of dairy farming, or people with the dairy farming experience that maybe lack the business knowledge to involve them in the whole business, not just teach them how to run the dairy farm on day to day, but involve them in the accounts, in the budgeting, in the cost control, those sides, which I think will be mutually beneficial to both parties. So we would get higher educated people onto the farm without having to pay them herd manager fees, which would be great for us, the enjoyment of training them, and then them being able to progress on to being share farmers or tenant farmers, which may in the future actually involve us as the financial investor rather than the farmer.
So engagement, engaging with people, with the public, getting people involved with what you do and telling your story is something that you do a lot of and you're very good at, in my opinion.
Thanks.
You do a lot, particularly through Instagram, Farmer in Training, which I'm sure that everyone listening to this podcast will know you on that. Why do you think social media engagement, particularly, why is that important for you?
I think I only really try and share real life on the farm, and actually at one point I sort of stopped doing so much, and I had quite a lot of people saying, "Oh no, we really want to see the cows going out. We absolutely love it." And I think it's a really good way for people who aren't in the countryside, or even if they are, to access in a visual way. Like it's seeing things is so much. For some people is so much better, and you just feel like you're there. Some people have said you just feel like you're bringing the cows in. Sometimes I do, I'd go live and bring the cows in. People absolutely love that, so they feel part of it. And it's just connecting people to where their food's from, so they can make their own decisions on what they're eating and drinking.
And in 2021, and I know you love talking about this.
You know I hate this. I don't hate it. I was so proud to win it, but I'm...
Yeah, so in 2021, Sophie was named Dairy Woman of the Year. Can you first tell us a little bit about what that is and what that means and how it made you feel, what it meant for you?
Yeah, of course. So Women in Dairy is an amazing organisation which has been set up to try and encourage and support other women in the industry, and also to be able to put on really useful events and get people together. And I was nominated by a girl who used to work for us actually, and she's gone on to a bigger farm and actually another farm after that. So I was so touched to even be nominated, and then completely honoured to win. I didn't ever think I would. I think the judges' feedback was that I do everything I can to bring dairy to a good light, and show the opportunity that's there to have a really fun career, as well as trying to connect farm to fork as well. It's just really important to me. I suppose because I haven't come from a farming background, I sort of look at things from a slightly different angle. Yep. And if someone else thinks, oh, actually that could be for me, then we need really, we need intelligent people in this industry.
There can be in dairy quite a lot of downers, sort of looking at the negative side of things. But I mean, personally, as give a plug for the Kite podcast. Let's listen to the Kite podcast, guys. Yeah, we take a very positive spin on things there, and it is quite an exciting time in dairy, isn't it? To looking to the future.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we've got a real opportunity to sort of shape it. I think that there is so much space for people to come in now. I think that, especially with subsidies going, I think there is definitely space, especially in sort of agreements like we've had, share farming. There's lots of people retiring and things, so that would benefit from having a younger generation come through. So no, I think it's a really exciting time. I think it's, with farming at the moment, you can't really stand still. So I think we need those bright people coming into the industry to sort of lead the way on what's next.
Yeah. You're also very strong on wider industry engagement and involvement. Tell me about your role, a fairly recent role with Arla.
So yeah, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time and probably just haven't had the confidence. What happened was earlier this year, they hadn't had elections, so it's normally a 2-year term, but because of COVID, the elections has sort of gone for 3 years, so positions were 3 years. So it came up earlier this year, and I thought, right, I'm just going to give this a go. I had quite a lot of encouragement from a few friends, and they said, just go for it. What have you got to lose? And so I stood for the local elections district, and I didn't realise until on the way there that I had to stand up and give a bit of a spiel about why I wanted to do it. But that probably was for the best, because I'm not actually very good at prepping things. I'd rather just speak from me. Yeah. And then off the back of that, I had really been interested in going on the board, which is 29 UK farmers on the UK BOR board, and you stand in your area, and there's a certain amount of seats per area, and then you can also stand for what they call the area forum. So I'd wanted to do it, but I don't think it's that common that people go straight from district. But I spoke to a couple of friends. They were like, you just have to go for it. So up until the morning of the area forum, I hadn't really committed to it, and then the morning of it, I got up there and I said how passionate I was, and somehow I managed to be voted in. So now, so it's taken me, so way outside my comfort zone, which has been amazing. I used to hate flying, which I still do, but I've been to Denmark twice, and we go up to head office quite a bit. But it's really great opportunity to meet other like-minded people, and also to sort of help form the direction of the cooperative for the next period of time. I've met some really great people, and just people I can pick up the phone to, and when it's hard, and say, what would you do, or and it just also to learn the insides of the cooperative. It's such a big organisation, and I didn't really realise how big it was until I joined the board. Yeah,
you recently you took over the LinkedIn page for Arla for a week, and I was reading through some of the comments, and one of you did a sort of Q&A where you said you asked people to send you any questions, and one of the comments that came through was, what advice would you give to someone coming into the industry? And within that, you said find a mentor, which has clearly been very important for you as well.
Yeah, hugely important. And so I suppose we've got a few mentors, but our business partner has been a huge mentor to us, sort of getting into the industry and helping us build a successful business here. And others who have already sat on the board, I've been to and said, how do I do this? How do I go about this? Accountants, other farmers. I think discussion groups have just been a great opportunity for me, because a lot of first generation go there and we share ideas. You can really sort of bash things out with them, and they've all seen it before. And also those places, they're very good at being, no questions too silly, because that's what I felt really when I came into the industry, that I was sort of knew nothing. I was definitely blagging it for a long time, and probably still am, but they're very good at making you feel comfortable enough to ask those questions which you wouldn't normally.
Yeah. Team Dairy is great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I shouldn't say it.
No, I'm a bit biased, but it's brilliant. Brilliant place to be.
So we always finish the show with the same 2 questions, and Tom's not with us at the moment. So Sophie, I'm gonna ask you.
Has he done any?
You to. I completely forgot to do this earlier actually with him. So
great, thanks.
It's all on you, Sophie. No, so we always finish the show with the same 2 questions. The first is, if you have a message for the public, any message, what would it be?
I think it would be to go, if you're not sure on something, to ask the question, because most farmers are pretty open about what they do, and just to ask the questions, not to make assumptions, and also to just get out on sort of open farm Sunday, anything like that, to go actually onto a farm is the best way to see it in action. That you can, there's some great YouTube stuff now, but also just getting out on farm and having a feel of things is just, that's the best way to see where your food comes from. So that's what I would say, get out on farm.
Absolutely. And finally, a message for farmers.
I think at the moment, probably just dig deep, hold on. It's a bit morbid, isn't it? I think also...
It's a popular message at the moment.
Yeah, also, it's never not rained before is something I keep telling myself. And, the season's probably, we're nearly there now, aren't we? But I think also not to try and base things on one year. This could just be a year, that we've had a hard year. Don't change your whole thing. Just keep it simple. Yeah. Keep doing what you know.
Yeah. Well, Sophie, thank you so much for having me. I would
say,
Tom, thank you so much.
Come back tomorrow, 5 a.m.
Exactly. Well, it's just down the road at the moment. But no, I've loved this afternoon, and honestly, I'm absolute awe of everything you're doing here and everything you want to achieve, and your vision and drive is honestly out of this world. So, well done, and keep up the good work.
Get some sleep.
And that, exactly. Next time on the podcast, we will be talking about Harvest 22, which has been very early and very hot and dry for everyone. But I'll be getting some feedback from several farmers from across the country. So that is next week on the podcast. But for now, have a great week.